Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Tuesday, September 3rd. This is episode 374 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. Today, we've got a couple things on top surrounding the New York Jets as we are just 6 days away from week one, Monday night, Jets 49ers. Haason Reddick still has not shown up. We will break that down, give you the latest from Robert Saleh, and also discuss some 49ers notes as well surrounding a couple key players that are back in the mix after CMC dealing with injury. He's back. Trent Williams' contract situation is getting worked out, and Brandon Ayuk also signed an extension last week. So they are getting to full strength here just before week number one. So we'll discuss some of that as well later on in the podcast. As always, before we begin, let me tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS. The NFL season is here. We kick off in 2 days. Chiefs, Ravens kick things off on Thursday night. And then Friday night, you got the Brazil game between the Eagles and the Packers. And there is no better way to get in on the action than over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. Plus, my viewers, use my link to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000. When you take a look at some of the odds, the New York Jets are now the favorites in the AFC East, plus 170 to win, bet 100, win 170. And, of course, take a look at some of the overseas regular season win totals. Over 9.5 minus 160, under 9.5 plus 130. You want to hammer the over. This is a team last year that, of course, won 7 games with no quarterback play. They will should win 9 games, more than 9 games this year with Aaron Rodgers and all the talent around him on both sides of the football. Also, of course, our friends over at SeatGeek. No better way to buy tickets for the Jets, for the NFL, any event. Then with our friends over at SeatGeek, promo code BubsOnSports for $20 off your first purchase. This is tickets for anything, not just sports, like I said. Plays, concerts, shows, you name it. If you can buy a ticket for an event, SeatGeek has it. BubsOnSports at checkout for $20 off. And, of course, our friends over at Huga House. If you want one of the hats Aaron Rodgers, QB1 wears all the time, use my promo code BUBS for 15% off. And all those links can be found in the description of this video. So hopefully 6 days from now, well, 1 week from now, but 6 days is week number one, Monday Night Football. Hopefully 1 week from this moment, we are celebrating a Victory Tuesday with the New York Jets defeating the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. And 6 days from the actual game, it's game week. I am fired up. Jets fans should be fired up. We have finally made it after a long off season, a long year last year, knock on wood for health with this team, and hopefully a very, very, very successful season that sees this team make a strong push towards a franchise's second Lombardi trophy. Now, I want to get into some notes today on Haason Reddick. As Robert Saleh spoke to the media as the New York Jets were off over the last couple days, off yesterday on Labor Day, back at practice today. The rest of the week will look like a day off tomorrow, and then they'll be back for their normal practice week on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Of course, similar to a regular Sunday game, which will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice, with the Monday game being 1 day later. Thursday, Friday, Saturday practice. One practice today as well before a day off tomorrow. And Robert Saleh spoke to the media, and a lot of Jets fans, myself included, it felt like the deadline, the expectation, the last day that Reddick could potentially report, the day that everybody's kind of been circling on their calendar for Haason Reddick to report was today, or maybe even tomorrow. But today has come and gone. The Jets have practiced. Robert Saleh spoke, and Haason Reddick's still not there. Here is the latest on Reddick from Saleh this morning.
Is there anything new to report with Haason Reddick?
No, not that I'm aware of.
In your mind, is there a deadline this week in terms of him being able to play Monday? Like, would he have to be here for Thursday's practice? Would he have to be here today? What's the deadline in your mind?
Really, it's going to be all dependent on how he looks. If and when he shows up, we'll put him through some work with the training staff, see where he's at, and then communicate with him and on what we can figure out.
So that's Saleh there on Reddick. We'll also play a couple other clips on Saleh talking about Reddick, talking about the defense line, why he still has trust even without Reddick out there potentially week number 1 and maybe even longer. But some interesting notes there. It felt like for a while now, the New York Jets, the deadline was either today or maybe even tomorrow. But the way Saleh worded that, it feels like if he shows up Thursday, if he shows up Friday, if he shows up Saturday, heck, if he gets on the plane to go to San Francisco on Monday or Sunday, right? Then, and he's there on Monday night, he could play. So that's kind of a weird development. It felt like forever now. The New York Jets, he has to show up probably the day after Labor Day. If he shows up, then they could play him. He can get a full week of practice in. But it feels like if he shows up late this week, if he shows up on Sunday, if he gets on the plane and goes to San Francisco with the team, he could play Monday night. So that's kind of weird development when the actual deadline is for him not to be able to play, because Saleh kind of makes it seem like with those couple quotes there, with those couple sentences, that if he shows up, we don't really have a deadline. If he shows up, let's say on Friday, we get him in practice, he works with the trainers a little bit and he looks good, he looks healthy, then we're going to throw him out there. Obviously, he won't be in 100% role. He's not going to be in his usual role week 1. That's just stupid. You don't want to risk injury. But it feels like if he shows up this week, anytime this week, he has a chance to play. So that's interesting. It felt like for a while it was he's got to show up Tuesday, he's got to show up Wednesday, he's got to show up early this week to have any chance to get a full week of practice and then play in the actual game. And even then, it wasn't a guarantee. Now it's like he could show up for the plane ride and play Monday. So interesting to see how that all develops. And, we've repeated ourselves a lot with this situation, but it continues to just be a really odd look for both sides, especially when you see, the Niners get their contract situations ironed out. I know it's different, right? Brandon Ayuk, I get it. Trent Williams, both different players, both players that have been there, both players that have earned new contracts with those teams. Haason Reddick has not played it down with the Jets, hasn't practiced a single day with the Jets, has been at the facility once, did an interview at the facility when he got a couple days after the trade and hasn't been back since. So yes, different situations, but it's still so odd. It's still frustrating. And with all the excitement revolving around this team, and we're all still going to be so fired up going into week 1, no matter if Reddick's out there or not. It's still just a dark cloud over this team that's not necessary. Everything has gone right this offseason. Knock on wood, everybody's been healthy. The team has looked good. Rodgers has looked great, right? Everybody was wondering, okay, how does he look coming off an Achilles tear? He's looked great during training camp. Everything that could have went right this offseason, I would say, from a performance perspective, from a health perspective, has. They came out healthy. All this stuff, they kind of flew under the radar, right? Not many, hard knocks, all that stuff. Just got down to business, good practices, all that stuff. And here we are. We still have this hanging over our heads, which is annoying. And I still find it hard to believe, and I will continue to say this. I still find it hard to believe that Haason Reddick does not play at all this year, or does not play at least in the first couple weeks. Like, he's got it. I don't think people quite understand, and I get it, right? It's not a great look for both sides. We know the Jets side of things. We understand that side. We get it. If Reddick's with the Jets, he makes them better. Totally understand that. Totally agree with that. You cannot sit here and say the New York Jets are the same defense without Haason Reddick. You can't say that. You can't say that Michael Clemens is going to fill the shoes of Haason Reddick. No, you just can't. Haason Reddick's a beast. He's an elite pass rusher. Are the Jets still a top 5 defense without him? Yeah. Are they the best defense in the NFL without him? Probably not. They still need Haason Reddick, and Haason Reddick is a huge piece of this team making a push towards the Super Bowl. We've talked about that so much. But from the Reddick angle, and I continue to say it, this is a guy that's not getting any younger. He's 29 years old. He's going to be 30 in a couple weeks. This is a guy that if he sits out all year, he's not going to get anywhere near the money that he wants next offseason at his age 30 season with sitting out a year on top of that. I mean, let's take a look. This was a guy that nobody wanted in the first place. The New York Jets were the only team that actually wanted him from Philly. Nobody else wanted him from Philly. So you think anybody's going to want him if he sits out this entire year, goes into next year, another year older, and hasn't played in a year? No. So I still think the Jets here have the leverage from a perspective that Haason Reddick cannot not play this year. It would kill it would absolutely demolish his value. It would destroy his value. I mean, even if he does play this year, he's got to play, of course, at an elite level still. And he might get off to a slow start because he's missed so much time. We'll see. But as each day goes by, the value, the future for Haason Reddick from a contract perspective only declines. Because as each day goes by, he's getting fined more. He's going to start losing game checks. He's actually going to miss games. Forget about getting a big contract next offseason. Nobody's going to give you that money. If nobody gave you that money this offseason, when you had 11 sacks last year, you played a full season. You're fourth in the NFL in sacks over the last 4 seasons. Nobody's going to give you that money next offseason if you don't play. Or even if you do play, if you're not the same player. And if you're lazy. And, that would be the ugly side of this, is if he's not even giving it 100% out there, doesn't want to be here, all that stuff. So just a frustrating situation. It's just annoying. It's annoying. It's so annoying. And, it's been we're all positive, rightfully so, but it's still just a very, very annoying situation. Now, here is Saleh on if he's disappointed or not with the Reddick situation and all that stuff.
I mean, how disappointed are you not to have this done here and have the full deck that you had planned, as you go into this game?
I'm not. There's no disappointment. It's you've got your roster. You got the guys who are here, and those are the guys you focus on. Hopefully eventually he does get here, and when he gets here, like I said, we're going to embrace him. We're going to love him. We're going to do everything we can to put him in a position to be successful, to achieve the goals that he's trying to achieve, as well as us. But I wouldn't call it disappointment.
So Saleh continues to say, and the Jets continue to say as a whole, even Douglas, right? The guys that are here, those are the guys we're focusing on. And the next clip I want to show too is Saleh talking about the defensive line, how he feels the guys they got up front are good enough, can do the job, can get the job done. And when Reddick comes back, he'll be welcome, of course, but the defensive line they got now, they feel good about.
I've got a lot of confidence in all of them. Michael looks a lot different than he did a year ago, where, from our standpoint, we recommended that he gain 30 pounds, which was, in hindsight, not a good idea. And but everything I feel like is in a really good place for him. He's lighter, he's faster, he's leaner. He still has all his power, and he's playing really well. Will McDonald looks awesome. His speed and counter off his speed is is lethal. He's doing well enough in the run game, and then don't sleep on Tack. I thought Tack had a really good training camp also. So we've got plenty to go rush the passer. Our interior guys, Quinnen, Kinlaw, and Solly still will produce a whole lot for us, and so I'm not overly concerned at all.
And that's one thing that this whole Reddick situation does obviously bring to the table for the Jets is opportunities for these other guys. Michael Clemens, I didn't think had a very good preseason. I didn't think he had a very good training camp, but he's down in weight. The Jets coaching staff still obviously believes of him. They've taken a lot of the blame for his struggles last year with putting on weight, which made him slower coming off the edge and kind of just completely diminished his pass rushing ability, the little bit that he showed in his first season. But even guys like Will McDonald, right? Huge year for him. I mean, huge year. He might be prime time Monday night. No Reddick. He might be your second biggest piece on the edge outside of Jermaine Johnson, depending on what you're going to get out of Michael Clemens. Unknowns with even some of these other guys, these UDFAs that have played really well, right? This is their first actual live NFL game action. So Will McDonald's a guy that, in terms of talent, in terms of what he should be able to do, should be the best, second best behind Jermaine Johnson. So even he's a guy that you want to get year two started off on the right note, go out there and dominate in week number one. And Tack McKinley is another guy that I'm really interested actually in seeing what he looks like against ones, against starters, because his speed off the edge has been so good, has been so impressive. And I think seeing what he can do on Monday night against a good offensive line in the Niners, I think will definitely be interesting. And of course, you've got guys like Brandon Greger, Watts, Taylor, all those other guys as well that'll probably rotate in at times. But yeah, it's interesting. Definitely will be interesting. But look, this is still a defensive line that didn't have Reddick last year and was elite. And I know they lost Huff. I know they lost JFM, but you still got Quinnen Williams in the interior. You've still got Jermaine Johnson. Javon Kinlaw has put together a very nice training camp. He looks like he's in for maybe one of his better seasons, just a new mindset, a really, really one of those stories too that you can an easy guy to get behind as well from a rooting perspective, from a perspective where you want to see him do well. You've got it still a veteran in Solomon Thomas, so you still got pieces there, but no Reddick as of now. Now, as for the 49ers, the Niners have little by little here gotten to full strength essentially. Early last week before the Ayuk extension, you looked at the 49ers and you said, okay, they might not have their starting running back, they might not have their starting left tackle, and they might not have their number one wide receiver for week number 1 against the New York Jets. But in just about 5 days, that has changed. So we'll go in order. Brandon Ayuk, as you all know, got extended, 4-year, $120 million deal with $76 million guaranteed, $30 million per season, which is the 5th highest per year among wide receivers, tied with Dolphins wideout Tyreek Hill. So Ayuk gets locked up. He will be out there week number 1. So you'll get your normal pairing of Debo and Ayuk there on the outside for the Niners. As for Trent Williams, he returned to practice today, or will return to practice today. Deal isn't done yet, but it's close enough where he's back at practice. So after what looked like maybe they would be without Trent Williams, which would be a loss that, is probably the biggest out of all of them. CMC and Trent Williams would be, I think, the biggest. Ayuk's obviously huge, but I think you could probably get away with losing Trent. You can make a debate whoever would have been the biggest missing piece for the Niners, but no Trent Williams for the Niners would have meant probably a long, long day for Brock Purdy, because the Jets would definitely be able to get home pretty easily there. So Trent Williams is back. He will be ready to go for week number 1. And I don't really have any concerns. I know some Jets fans are saying, oh, he's going to be, he's going to be rusty. He's got to get into game shape. Trent Williams is a veteran. He's been around forever. I don't really foresee him not playing well in this game. It's not like he's a new team, knows the system. I don't know. We'll see. But Trent Williams is out there. Maybe he's rusty. Maybe he has an off game to start, but I don't see that happening for a guy that's been one of the elite players at that position for forever now. And then Christian McCaffrey, like I said, he's returning after missing really the majority of training camp with the strained calf that he was dealing with. He is back to practice today. So again, 1 week ago today, we were looking at Ayuk, Trent Williams, CMC, all maybe missing this game. Fast forward a week later, and all 3 of them will be in action, which I will say this is actually a positive, because if the New York Jets beat the Niners, there is no excuse for NFL fans to throw out there. Because the excuse, if the Jets would have beat the Niners without CMC, without Ayuk, without Trent Williams, it would have been, oh, they're missing their 3 best players, even just one of them missing. Oh, they were missing CMC. It doesn't count. Oh, they were missing Ayuk. Oh, they were missing future Hall of Famer at left tackle and Trent Williams. Now there's no excuses. The Jets go out there and beat the Niners, then no excuses. Excuses are out the window. Because the NFL media would have been, oh, no Ayuk, no CMC, oh, they weren't full strength. Well, now that is not a reason anymore. So we'll see how it all plays out. But that is episode 374 in the books. Fired up. Jets football 6 days from now, and hopefully Victory Tuesday 1 week from today. Fired up. A lot more content the rest of the week. We will have a 49ers content creator on later in the week to talk Jets-Niners. We'll have my game preview up later in the week, so tons of episodes. Every week we'll have a content creator from the other team, so stay tuned for that. Can't wait to do that again. Of course, we did that last year. Can't wait to do it again this year. That'll be up later on. Depending on what the news and everything like that looks like, I probably will have my season preview up tomorrow. We'll break down the season, give you my record prediction, standings prediction, all that stuff, give you some stat predictions for Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, all those guys, kind of break down really everything from this team, statistical leaders, all of that. We'll preview that all probably tomorrow, and then we'll have content creator on later in the week. And then we'll have my preview as well later on. So it's game week. It's game week. We've made it. Jets, Niners, 6 days from today. Let's go. Jets, Jets, Jets. I'll talk to you all soon.